welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. It's pretty clear that both of the country's political parties have changed radically over the past few years, and they're changing still. We cover that every night on this show. Donald Trump, of course, has transformed the GOP. You may have read about it. On the Democratic side, there have been profound changes, too, ones that don't get quite as much attention. A party that for 100 years stood with America's middle class now represents the nation's richest and its poorest. And so, not surprisingly, the party's positions on policy have changed accordingly, a lot. So just about 20 years ago, Democrats championed free speech. They worried about illegal immigration loudly. They criticized voluntary foreign wars, and they argued that unrestricted trade hurt American workers. And by the way, quite a few of them, Democrats, were pro-life, too. Senator Harry Reid among them. And that's not surprising if you think about it. Democrats said they cared most about the vulnerable in our society. Even Bill Clinton, who vetoed 2 partial birth abortion bans, felt the need to say he wanted to keep abortion rare. He said that a lot. Try that in today's Democratic Party. Lots of luck. Modern Democratic activists celebrate abortion as a positive good. Shout your abortion, they proclaim. They put it on T-shirts. Abortion isn't bad. We need more of it. Well, earlier this month, Governor Andrew Cuomo signed a bill making that possible. It's called the Reproductive Health Act, and the law legalizes abortion right to the moment of birth for virtually any reason. Now, to most people, aborting a child moments before delivery might seem uncomfortably like killing. A lot of pro-choice people feel that way. It's a concern. Well, Cuomo's law addresses that concern. The law declares that children who have not yet been born are not, in fact, human. So don't worry about it. Cuomo illuminated the new World Trade Center in Lower Manhattan with pink lights to celebrate the bill signing. He described it as a profound moral victory. Now, the national press didn't spend a lot of time covering this. No matter how much you might like Roe v. Wade, maybe you love it. There's still something pretty ghoulish about celebrating third-term abortion. Maybe that's why only a tiny percentage of American voters support it, around 13%. Small percentage. Nobody really wants to hear the details about any of this, so nobody asks. And that's why the video we're about to show you, which is not gory, don't worry, but it is remarkable. In it, a Virginia Democratic lawmaker called Kathy Tran explains in detail a bill she's introduced that will remove all restriction on late-term abortion. She was asked, well, what would that mean exactly? And Tran tells the truth. Watch this.
Where it's obvious that a woman is about to give birth. She has physical signs that she is about to give a birth. Would that still be a point at which she could request an abortion if she was so certified? She's dilating.
Mr. Chairman, that would be a decision that the doctor, the physician, and the woman would make.
I understand that. I'm asking if your bill allows that.
My bill would allow that, yes.
So, abortion at the point of dilation. If you're confused about what that means, ask anyone who has given birth. And then think about it for a second. There's a lot going on, obviously, but just think about that for 1 second. You may be pro-choice. Are you okay with that? Virginia's governor is okay with that. He's thought about it. Ralph Northam is his name. He's been in office a little over a year. He's often described, in fact, always described as moderate. And that's pretty amazing given his reaction to Kathy Tran's late-term abortion bill. This is from today. Watch this.
It's done in cases where there may be severe deformities. There may be a fetus that's non-viable. So in this particular example, if a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother.
A discussion about killing the infant? The infant. He's direct enough to call the infant what the infant is. But again, the infant would be delivered and resuscitated if that's what the mother desires. Quote, in other words, the governor of Virginia has just told us in public on camera that it's okay to kill a child after the child has been born. That used to be called infanticide, not rhetorically, but literally infanticide, taking the life of a child who is breathing. The governor seemed to just say that. Did he misspeak? Well, you'd hope, but no, he didn't. Ralph Northam is a physician. He's a pediatric neurologist, in fact. He's not some clueless layman who mangled a NARAL talking point. This is really what he thinks. This is what his party thinks, though no one ever says it, but it's true. This is the new moderate pro-choice position. You should know that.
The 2020 election is rapidly approaching, believe it or not. Still a ways away, but it's starting to get a lot of attention. And a new poll suggests that voters actually in both parties favor moving their party a bit to the right. Look at these numbers that just came out. 53% of Democrats want their party to be a bit more moderate. And then look at the Republican side. 58% of Republicans say that they would like to see their party more conservative. So tonight, we want to get the real story from voters of all political affiliations represented here. We've got Democrats, we have Republicans, we have independents. So welcome to all of you. Thank you very much for coming to the story tonight. Good to have you here. I want to kick things off with a soundbite from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez that I want to get your response to. Let's play this.
Capitalism has not always existed in the world, and it will not always exist in the world. When this country started, we were not a capitalist. We did not operate on a capitalist economy.
So she got a lot of attention for that. Rachel, you say that you are a supporter of AOC, as she is known. Do you agree with that, that ultimately capitalism might not be the right system for America?
I think it's definitely time for us to take a look at what's working and what's not working with capitalism. For example, our healthcare system is in crisis, and it's based on a capitalist model. However, countries such as Sweden and other industrialized countries have universal healthcare, and that is working much better for them, and we're spending way more on our healthcare. So maybe it's time to look at a different model for our healthcare, such as improved Medicare for all.
Who disagrees?
Absolutely disagree.
Holly, you want to jump in here?
Well, I find it interesting.
You're a Republican, Holly.
I'm
okay.
a Republican, but I find it fascinating that we're talking about our healthcare system being in crisis in light of the fact that Obamacare was supposed to essentially get rid of that crisis. And everybody who's looking towards socialized medicine, you know, it's not a panacea that people think it is. If you go to some of the other countries, if you look at what's gone on, even in the UK and Canada, different areas, people who have the wherewithal have historically been coming to the United States to get their medical treatment. So I don't think that that is the area that we want to go into.
Let me just ask you guys a general question. If you could just raise your hand if you think that America should stick with capitalism, that that's a system that's working for the country. Who says yes to that?
May I speak to that issue for you?
Yeah, sure.
I would also like to say something to that.
Absolutely.
Would you like to go
Well, I'm
first?
a physician. I'm a medical doctor. I see patients in the Harlem community every day. I feel very strongly about the need for quality, comprehensive health care for all Americans from every background and every community. The question about capitalism, I think that should be addressed by the American people. I think right now we have a great deal of economic inequality. We have many, many crises in our society that are not being addressed that impact on a person's health. Public housing, the lead crisis, asthma, many things impact on a person's health. So
would you be okay with the country if it gravitated more towards a socialist medical plan?
I think we should try a fundamentally constructive democracy plan. I think that the American people, I'm an independent, 26 million independents were shut out of the last presidential election. I think that has to be changed. We have to open up the process and allow real dialogue. You quoted the different positions of people in the Democratic and Republican parties, but I think the American people fundamentally want to come together and go beyond these divisions.
All right, I want to play something from Howard Schultz, and then I'm going to come to you, Robert, out of this. Let's play this.
If I ran as a Democrat, which I would not do, I would have to be disingenuous given the platform that they are moving towards, which is a level of government takeover of health care, government takeover of free college for everyone, a job for everyone.
What do you think about Howard Schultz, Robert?
I'll tell you what I think. I think the country today wants more moderation with its policies because the ideologues are scaring everyone. There is a purpose for us to come together in a greater understanding. As a former mayor of the borough of Leonia, I never thought I would say today that when you had a difference of opinion with anyone, that they would not only dislike you, but they would hate you. That word hate is a scary word today. So you asked me about capitalism. I have been a Democrat for my whole life. I have owned and operated a successful business. This year, by the way, it's 40 years I celebrated this business opening, and it's been successful. And I believe capitalism works, but I think, to the point raised by another member of your panel, we need to look at what capitalism can do and how we can make it better. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Gotcha.
And on socialism, real quickly, 3 countries. I just ask people, you're entitled to your own opinion, but not your own facts. Go to those 3 countries that have socialism. Go to North Korea if you can get in, but you won't get out. Go to Venezuela, where they're all trying to get out. Or go to Cuba, where I went 2 years ago. I was there, and see what's going on in a country that is wrought with socialism.
I hear you. Donna, see if I can get you to weigh in on Howard Schultz. What do you think about him as a potential candidate, the Starbucks man?
I think I'm still learning what he's about. I'm hearing some things that I'm still kind of trying to figure out with him. I think he's got some interesting ideas.
But when he says the Democrat Party has gone too far left, he said, I won't run as a Democrat because they're going too far left to win. What do you say to that?
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that because I think that the social needs have to be addressed. You know, we have to, as Democrats, we have to figure out where we can have everybody included. Going too far to the left, I don't tend to agree with that.
All right, I want to play one more soundbite. This is from President Trump, and then we're going to go to Gene.
I have seen and heard from enough Democrats and Republicans that they are willing to put partisanship aside, I think, and put the security of the American people first.
So, Gene, he's talking about the fact that both Democrats and Republicans have said they want a secure border, but they don't seem to want to give him a deal on this at all. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think we need to start working together about the whole situation. We have to secure our borders. We need to protect our national interest. That's why people have fences for their houses, right? So it's the same thing with our country. We have to be real careful about that. And who we let in, there's a process in place. And I think we need to follow that process.
Will Democrats come to the table on a secure border? Democrats, you want to weigh in?
I think so. I think when it makes sense, when you do it in a humane way, you can't do it like separating children is just wrong.
And just something to add about the process. So I think maybe we should think about putting more money into our immigration infrastructure. So there's waits of 3 to 4 years in immigration court for people who are seeking asylum and coming here trying to become legal citizens. But when you have to wait 3 to 4 years, when you risk getting put in detention centers, when you're declaring asylum, it's
both President Trump and the Democrats have said that they want more lawyers at the border, so that sounds like something that they could definitely agree on. Thank you very much. We got to leave it there. We'll do it again. Thanks, guys. Good to have you with us today.
All right, so earlier today, Congress grilled Nellie Ohr. Now, she is the Fusion GPS contractor who's working on the phony dossier, also married to the twice-demoted DOJ official Bruce Ohr. Remember, Bruce Ohr became the conduit for Christopher Steele, and, they wanted to funnel phony information to the special counsel, Robert Mueller. And Nellie helped put together the anti-Trump dossier filled with Russian lies, propaganda, misinformation used in the campaign, used to secure FISA warrants. And Fox News has learned that Nellie Ohr, took the spousal privilege. House Freedom Caucus Chairman Mark Meadows, he was in that meeting. He joins us now, along with Fox News contributors Sarah Carter, investigative reporter, also investigative reporter from The Hill, John Solomon. Thank you all for being with us. Spousal privilege. Well, at least she showed up because Glenn Simpson wouldn't show up. Rod Rosenstein, I hear, is now rescheduled for the 24th. Congressman, tell us what you can tell us as it relates to this.
Well, obviously, the details of that particular interview are not something that we're sharing publicly, but your lead-in is exactly right. We were trying to get to the connection between Fusion GPS and Glenn Simpson, the ones who hired Christopher Steele and others to do the dossier. And ultimately, the go-between, which was, in our opinion, at times, Nellie Ohr to Bruce Ohr at DOJ and then to the FBI. And so a lot of the communication, she was actually a cooperative witness, but when it got down to the real details, she either didn't recall or they invoked a privilege that would say that the intimate conversations between a husband and wife could not be divulged and certainly claim that privilege. So I don't know that we learned a whole lot new.
The dossier she worked on,
that Clinton paid for that was used to, well, propagandize the American people with lies before the election and then used later as a weapon to try and bring the president down. And of course, that was all part of the media leak strategy, the insurance policy to get the special counsel appointed. Sarah Carter, let me go to you. You look at, they are being uncooperative, not allowing people like our friend Mark Meadows here to do his job, which is oversight. They keep refusing to turn over documents. They lie in the name of national security, and they've been proven to lie. But when you get to the bottom of it all, it really, a lot is coming down to Bruce and Nellie Orr. She creates the dossier, he's spreading the narrative of the dossier, and we even have information proving that Christopher Steele's telling Bruce Orr to get it to his friends over at the special counsel, but none of it's verified.
Well, absolutely, Sean. I mean, think about this. So you have Nellie Orr delivering information to her husband that he is holding on to. He is delivering that information to the FBI, apparently. And he's also being used as a back door to deliver information for Christopher Steele to the FBI after the FBI fires and basically dismisses Christopher Steele as a confidential informant when they were gathering information because he was leaking to the media. So how can Congress get to the bottom of any of this if Nellie Orr is refusing to talk about the conversations she had with her husband? These are not private conversations between a husband and wife. These are conversations between an employee of Fusion GPS and an official from the Department of Justice. And Congress should continue to demand answers from her, just as they did from James Baker. And maybe the person to ask about a lot of these questions is going to be Rod Rosenstein next Wednesday. I mean, he really has to answer these questions. He gave an interview to the Wall Street Journal, but then refused to talk to Congressman Meadows and other lawmakers. Yeah, it's incredible. It's like, well, I could talk to the media, but I don't want to talk to you. Yeah.
And I'll let you weigh in on this, John Solomon, but also you had a big breaking story yesterday that you were able to discover all these junkets that DOJ, FBI guys were taking from special interests. And it seems one of the biggest beneficiaries, even during his time working for Mueller, if my timeline is correct, would be Robert Mueller's pit bull, Andrew Weissman.
Yeah,
of course, he's the guy that was overturned 9-0 in the Supreme Court, lost tens of thousands of jobs at Enron Accounting, put 4 innocent people in jail for a year, overturned by the Fifth Circuit. Really? He's taking junkets paid for by?
Yep, the ABA and many of these different interests that had cases pending before the United States government and the Justice Department. You had FBI agents going out to a trip when Microsoft's fighting it out in the courts with the Justice Department. It was a pretty stark picture of a Justice Department that seems to be on the take with special interest, and nobody really knew about it. These reports were hidden, and I think it's an important thing. I was thinking as I was listening to Congressman Meadows and Sarah talk about what we learned today and yesterday, if the Beatles were around today, I think they would have revamped their song, and it would have been, "We've got a ticket to hide." Everything the FBI and the DOJ is doing is hiding from the American public the truth of what went on in this Russia investigation, and somewhere that buck has to stop, and I think it starts next week with Rod Rosenstein.
Well, let me go back to Mark Meadows and Rod Rosenstein. Why aren't you going to be in the room, and is he going to be under oath as per usual standard practice, and will it be recorded as per usual standard practice?
Well, I think
and
that's
why aren't you there? I heard you may not be in the room.
Well, right now, the deal that's being negotiated right now would exclude a number of us that have been there. So here's the problem I have with that. One, that's not what our leadership had committed to Jim Jordan and I that they would do. But the bigger problem is, why should Rod Rosenstein get a different standard than everybody else? He wants to go into a classified setting. He wants to go into a secret room so that nobody can hear his testimony on a transcribed interview. I think that we need to continue to make sure that he comes. I think we ought to compel him to come. And if he won't come voluntarily, the way that every other witness has, the time for a subpoena is now.
I couldn't agree more.
We need to release the FISA, declassify those, unredacted, the Gang of 8 information, the 302s. I hope they're coming. The president said they will be. Do we all agree on that?
I agree.
I do.
I agree. Yeah.
John, all right.
Yep,
Thank you all.